some help, Spectrum Internet. Get some help. Are we live? I think we're live. Okay, we're live. My gosh. What's for internet? And this is how it happens. Maybe taking a long look at different options. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers for UFC. Who? It should be an interesting card. I feel like this is one of those cards where we had 10 fights. A couple days ago, they randomly added a couple fights on it. Not the best card in the world. There's a couple matchups I'm looking forward to, but overall, not the most exciting card. I am here with Uncle Weezy, who is feeling under the weather. Uncle Weezy, what is up? Are you looking forward to UFC? Who?
Yeah, I don't know what the hell is going on with this card. It was doomed from the start, though, Brady. You know, this was supposed to be a road to UFC finals that was going to take place in China, and it was a lot of Asian fighters and Australian fighters that were going to be fighting on a local card, and then they figured out they couldn't do it in China, so they had to move the card from China to the US. 4 of the fights fell out as a result of that, and then now that left the UFC scrambling to create some last-second fights for this card, which is probably more trouble than it's worth because now you've signed some fighters that don't deserve to be here, and now they're going to have 3-4 fight contracts here at the UFC level, and we're going to be forced to watch it. So I don't know what's happening here. I don't know who the hell a lot of these people are, but we've got stats on all of them, Brady. And if your wife doesn't go into labor, and if I don't die from whatever the hell it is that I've got right now, we're going to have a great show here today.
Yep, it'll be fun for sure. But yeah, Weezy, we're going to do a quick recap of last night. Last night, probably the best fight night card of the year. I mean, last night's card was incredible, tons of finishes, and it was a really frustrating card for me. It was one of those cards where it was kind of sketching me out. I kept it light. And me keeping it light just hurt me. Like everything I bet on lost, but all my reads were like right. Like I liked Arman Tsarukyan inside the distance and by knockout. He knocks out Dariush. I like Jalen Turner inside the distance, round 1, round 2. He knocks Bobby Green out in the first round. I like Davis Figueiredo a lot. I didn't bet him. I missed the line. I picked Sean Brady. I picked Miesha Tate as an underdog. I picked Drakkar Klose. I picked Jared Gooden as an underdog. And I just didn't bet any of it. But what I did bet was Rodolfo Bellato by sub, and then I had the sub round 2, and man, it was close. I mean, he had him flattened out. The neck was right there for his taking. He decided to TKO him instead, so that one kind of hurt. I had the Cody Brundage Zach Reese under 1.5 rounds is my biggest bet of the night, so that was good. That was kind of sweat free. Wish I would have took the shot on Brundage round 1 KO, which was I think 12-1 at one point. Missed opportunity there. The worst bet of the night was on Punahele Soriano to win in rounds 1 or round 2, and then I had a sprinkle on the first round knockout prop. Just a terrible bet. I mean, he hurt Stoltzfus on 3 different occasions in the first round, but just didn't follow up at all. It was kind of weird. Like he rocked him 3 times and just kind of looked at him. It looked like Soriano was, didn't want to be there last night. And then this is the one that probably took a couple of years off my life. My favorite spot of the week last night was Joaquim Silva inside the distance, preferably by sub, and I mean, my gosh. So he rocks Clay Guida very, very badly in the first round. Doesn't even attempt a sub. And then in the second round, he does attempt a sub. He attempts a very, very tight guillotine. I'm not sure how Clay Guida got out of it. I thought it was over. And then the third round had another very, very tight guillotine. So close, but no cigar. But Joaquim Silva plus 400. Cash that value because I would take that all day. But it didn't hit. It didn't hit. So that one hurt. And took a couple years off my life. And then, like I said, after that, had no more bets, but I got everything right after that. So annoying night. I feel like it could have been a really good night, but ended up being down a little bit less than 3 units. Weezy, I know you didn't have a great night as well. Kind of a tricky card last night.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I kept it really small, and bankroll management is always just such an important part of what we do. If you're not confident, don't be several units deep into a card. I got reverse swept, but only wound up down 3.25 units. My biggest bet of the night got canceled because it was the under 1.5 rounds in a fight that we're going to talk about again this week, Garcia versus Costa. So I'm not going to get that price that I got last week, this week, when they reopen that time prop. So very frustrating. I was tilted 2 days or the day before the event even started because I lost that fight. and it was my most confident bet. And lost money like you on Silva by submission, on Bellato by submission. I had a 2-leg parlay. One leg was the under in the Brundage fight, which was fine. The other one was the over in the Selecki fight. You know, what are you going to do? An over 1.5 rounds in a Selecki fight shouldn't even be the total, but he got knocked out via a slam. And I also lost a little bit of money on Selecki by decision. So down 3.25 units. Had some nice prop bets that you can't track that wound up hitting. Had a good DFS day. But other than that, you know, it was a good day to stay small. I did that. Lost 3.25 units. Gave back most of what I made the week before. But we're back this week. This is another card that's very sketchy. But at the same time, we're seeing favorites, Brady, get juiced to the tits every week. And there's some interesting underdogs like there were last week. There are some interesting underdogs this week. And shout out to a couple people. Number one, Haqparast looked damn good.
He looked really good.
He could have easily won that fight. That fight could have been stopped there in the second round. He was absolutely putting it on Bellato. But also big ups to Bellato for never quitting, never stop moving, finding that Homer Simpson in him to absolutely just take a beating until his opponent is completely out of energy. He got on top and he finished the fight. So even the ass shaving the week cashed, but, you know, it wasn't a good pick for me. Greasy 4-legger only cashed 2 out of 4 legs. So definitely not one of my better weeks. Looking to move on to this week and beat this sickness and then beat these bookies with a bag of oranges until we juice those oranges, Brady. That's the plan for this week.
Yes, sir, it is. Man, this card is just frustrating because I researched this card early and then all of a sudden they randomly threw 3 random fights on the card. We'll talk about it all though. Do want to shout out the chat before we get started. We got Mushroom first one in the building, Victor DeJesus, Kiwi Moneyliner. We got Snerius, Jay Breezy, Robert in the chat. We got the Cheshire Cats, Mark, Jeff. What is up, everybody? Appreciate y'all hanging out. If you guys please could leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Me and Weezy go live every Sunday at 7:15 p.m. Eastern time. But Weezy, I say we get into it, and we're going to start with the Devontae Smith just got killed.
Really? My receiver, Devontae Smith?
Oh, it was Swift, not Smith.
Oh, Swift. Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
I've got him in another league though.
Oh, he got smacked. Okay, anyway, no more football. It's distracting. All right, gosh, Carlos Vera versus Daniel Marcos. Who? Like, what are they doing here? Like, I feel like you're just throwing random crap at this card, and this is the first one. But yeah, we got Carlos Vera, 36 years old, 5'6" with a 69.5-inch reach. Daniel Marcos, 30 years old, 5'7" with a 69-inch reach. We got Marcos 6 years younger. We got Marcos with a 1-inch height advantage and a 0.5 inch of reach disadvantage. Carlos Vera 5-0 in his last 5 fights, and we got Daniel Marcos is also 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He is undefeated. Had a win against Davey Grant in his last time out. Very close fight there, won by decision. It knocked out Simon Oliveira in the second round, and then he got a decision win on the Contender Series. So, Weezy, take it away. Take it off the card.
Yeah, I know. I was waiting for that. Yeah, I was waiting for that. Dudes, you know, this is so weird, right? So the card's in jeopardy. The UFC figures that all right, we got to add a couple fights. But at what cost? Dude, Carlos Vera is a 36-year-old bantamweight, Brady. And you just signed him. Now you got to give this guy 3 fights. For what? A 36-year-old bantamweight with a 54% finish rate in 11 wins? Not one noticeable win on his resume, not one win where you're like, oh shit, you know? I mean, like, if I were to tell you somebody had beaten somebody named Shinsuke Kamai, would you be like, oh shit, he beat Kamai? You know? Oh shit, he beat Sanzar Ajabayev, Cristiano Cruz? Who? I don't know who these people are, dude. Carlos Vera was one of the prospects that was in the house that was being coached by Conor McGregor on the latest season of The Ultimate Fighter. These so-called prospects that were all washed journeymen. And now you're signing one of them. Not Conor's boy, who was actually pretty good. You know? Not Rico DeSchulo. No. Carlos Vera is now in the UFC because Daniel Marcos needed a fight. I mean, just take it away. Get it out. Marcos is a minus 400 favorite. He probably closes what? Minus 600? Minus 700? He's the better boxer. These guys got a similar level of experience, even a similar level of, level of competition almost, kind of, just because Marcos fought Davy Grant, but before that, he's fighting regional scene level guys as well. So I don't know, man. This is just stupid.
Yeah, I agree. Do we even have odds for this fight yet?
Yeah, I think there's an opening line.
I'm guessing Marcos is a pretty big favorite.
Minus 400 Marcos, yeah, plus 330 for Carlos Vera.
Yep, fair enough. I think he should go out there and get it done. I don't even see it on Fight Odds. Is it just on Bet Online then?
It's on Bet Online, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yep, I think he probably should get the job done there. And anything else to say, or just a stupid fight?
Nah, man, I still haven't. Carlos Vera fought what's his name, the Irish kid in the house, Katona. He lost to Brad Katona, unanimous decision in the house. That's his last fight. His last fight before being in the Tough House was in 2022. I mean, I'd have to go back and watch that fight, but he's not even on the tape index yet. They just added this fight late last night.
Yeah, it probably won't be on the tape index till maybe fight day.
Yeah,
I mean, they
probably shouldn't be there in the first place.
Yeah. Ison likes the over. There's no total yet, but potentially. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. All right, we'll move on to the next fight. Then we have Steve Garcia going against Mel Costa. We broke this fight down last week. Nothing's changed other than Steve Garcia did pull out. I'm not really sure why. Maybe Weezy can let us know. But yeah, Garcia, 31 years old, 6 foot, 75-inch reach. Costa, 27 years old, 5'10", 71-inch reach. Costa, 4 years younger, 2-inch height disadvantage and a 4-inch reach disadvantage. Garcia 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We got Costa 3-2. Like I said, nothing changed. My prediction was Costa first round knockout. It's going to be Costa first round knockout. I don't like the durability of Steve Garcia. Dropped 5 times in 5 fights. Anytime he fights a solid striker, he's getting dropped. So yeah, I don't think he has the best chin. And I think Costa has enough tools on the feet to hurt him multiple times and finish him early on here. But yeah, I like the under. Weezy, you're on the under. You got it at plus 132. I believe I was going to bet it at plus 105. I was going to pull the trigger and then it got called off. So I'm assuming they're going to open it up probably around plus 100, plus 105 towards that under 1.5. So you kind of got screwed over there, but it is what it is. Yeah, same thing for me. Nothing's changed. Costa early on here. What about you, Weezy?
Yeah, I like Costa early on. The stat that I gave out last week, that is Steve Garcia fights. If you look at the number that I'm highlighting right here, 5.21 minutes, right? That Steve Garcia has been at distance striking range in the UFC. He's got 30 minutes of cage time in the UFC, but only 5 minutes of that has been spent at distance striking range. And in those 5 minutes, Steve Garcia has 4 knockdowns for and 5 knockdowns against. 9 total knockdowns in 5.21 minutes of distance striking exchanges in Steve Garcia fights. So definitely like violence here. I like somebody to get knocked out early, under 1.5 rounds at plus 132 was a big bet last week. I won't get it anywhere near that this week. Might even have to pay juice this week, seeing on where they open it. But yeah, I like Costa first round KO in this fight.
Did they get out a line yet for anything or no?
Yes, they did. I think it's minus 275. Yeah, Melk is minus 275, Steve Garcia plus 235. The reason the fight didn't happen is that Steve Garcia is a 6-foot fighter with a 75-inch reach, and he's been trying to make bantamweight and featherweight for his entire career so he can be a weight bully. But the reality is that he's not much of a professional, and he can't make weight regularly. He misses weight pretty much every other fight. So here we are again. He's got to try to get down to 145 again. So this could be another situation where Garcia, just in his typical unprofessional fashion, fucks up another weight cut and destroys another fight.
Yeah, yep. And it's kind of weird. He pulled out and then they booked the fight like a week later. So we'll see how that affects him.
Yeah, it can't be good. It can't be. And it's not going to be good for Costa either, because this thing didn't get called off until weigh-in day. Yep. So Costa was already cutting weight. Garcia was cutting weight, and now you got to do it again 7 days later. And instead of in Austin, Texas, now you got to fly to Vegas and do it. So I think that makes the under even better this time around, but we're not going to get it at the price that we got it at last week. So I just don't know what the opportunity is here to make money.
Yeah, whenever I saw that fight was booked for this card, I got a little pissed off.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was sending Brady messages last night at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, dude, it's not 10 fights now, it's 11. And then I'm like, oh, dude, now it's not 11, it's 12. And he's like, what did you just say?
Because I was planning on recording my video yesterday, and then they added like 2 or 3 fights in the last couple of days. I don't know. It's annoying, but we'll move on to the next fight. We have Rayon dos Santos going against Talita Alencar. We got dos Santos, 28 years old, 5'2", with a 62-inch reach. We got Alencar, 33 years old, 5'1", with a 58-inch reach. We got Santos, 5 years younger, a 1-inch height advantage, and then a 4-inch reach advantage. Santos 4-1 in her last 5 fights. She was on the Contender Series against Denise Gomes, lost that fight by decision, wasn't really that competitive. And then as far as Alencar, she had a draw on the Contender Series against Stephanie Luciano, and I believe they both got a contract. So, Weezy, what I like to do prior to our shows is I like to get on my walking treadmill desk and I kind of pull up the card, and I like to practice through the card, right, to make sure I got all my points going, right? And I went to practice this fight, and I almost had a stroke, trying to break this one down. So I'm gonna kick it to you. I don't know what to do here, man. I mean, Alencar, I don't think she's that great. She's a BJJ black belt, but both fighters are. She can wrestle a little bit. I don't think she has the best cardio. She death gassed in her Contender Series fight. And then you got dos Santos, who, quite frankly, I don't think she's UFC caliber. She's a black belt, like I said. She has solid takedown defense. I don't think her striking is that great, but she's going to have a striking advantage here. It's just a fight that, I don't really want anything to do with. Weezy, what are you planning to do with this fight here?
I don't know, man. So, like, I watched the tape on Rayon dos Santos, and I'm like, I wasn't impressed. And then I went and I looked at her record, and she's got fraud vibes, Brady. I mean, big time fraud vibes here. You look at the last wins, right? The wins in Invicta come at atomweight, so they come down a weight class. She's not a natural strawweight. She gets a win against Jillian DeCourcy. Very good win. I mean, that makes her the atomweight champion of Invicta, but it's still atomweight. Before that, she fights Katie Saul, who's 5-5. Before that, she wins in mag fight over Victoria Carolina, who's 1-2. She loses the fight before that to Denise Gomez on the Contender Series. And the wins that got her to the Contender Series, Brady, 4-win streak, 0-0 Jocelyn Seabra, 0-0 Fabiola Barroso, 0-6 Luciana Santos, and 0-1 Daniela Ribeiro. And the fight before that, she lost. So she's kind of an atomweight, okay? Her striking, not great. Undersized for the division. Now, Talita Alencar, also undersized for the division. She's a very small strawweight, but she's thick, Brady. And she's got that grappling base. Multiple-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion, actually. So she's got a very good BJJ game. Both of these girls are tough. We've seen both of these girls eat a lot of pretty flush shots and keep going. Alencar has been taking knees square to the face in several different fights and eating them like flapjacks and continuing to wrestle. So I guess we're going to find out about Rayon dos Santos's takedown defense, but she's a 14-6 journeywoman. Losses to every decent mixed martial artist that she's faced, except for Jillian DeCourcy. So I need to watch the 5-round fight with DeCourcy. That'll be a half hour of my life, but that'll give me a little bit better look at dos Santos, because of the fights that I saw before that from her, I wasn't really that impressed, man. So I'm leaning Alencar here. I don't think Rayon dos Santos should be favored against anybody at the UFC level, and she is a favorite here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think anybody should be favored. I do lean the Rihanna side just because I think she has better cardio, better striking. I think she can hang in the grappling, but I think Allan probably wins the first round. Maybe a good live betting spot, but I just can't trust Allan across 3 rounds. But it's going to be close. It's going to go to decision. I imagine it's my 1-800 gambler fight of the week. I posted that the Tate Avila fight was 1-800 gambler. People got pissed at me. They're like, there's a clear spot on this card. The fight goes to decision is the lock of the century. Somebody said. And Tate subs her in the third round.
Subs her in the third round. Yeah.
Gosh.
Dude,
yeah, I mean,
there's nothing. Yeah, nothing's ever a lock. But,
no.
4 years of layoff between those two ladies. How could you be, positive? Yeah, I mean, congratulations to all the Tate bettors. You made a hell of a bet. She looked phenomenal. Avila didn't win a second of that fight, but I still would have been disappointed with myself if I had a penny on that fight.
Yeah. I mean, I picked Tate, but I couldn't quite get there. But yeah, great bets on Tate for sure. And I will not be betting on this fight. I mean, nobody can force me to bet on something like this. And I'm definitely not laying chalk on Rayon dos Santos. I think that's very irresponsible, but I'll pick her to win. All right, moving on to the next fight. Oh God. We have Stephanie Egger going against Luana Santos. We got Stephanie Egger, 35 years old, 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. Luana Santos, 23 years old, 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. We have Santos much younger, like 12 years younger. She's going to be having the same height and same reach there. Stephanie Egger is 3-2 in her last 5 fights, a knockout win against Shannon Young, submission win against Jessica Rose Clark, submission loss to Mara Bueno Silva, submission win against Eileen Perez, and then a submission loss to Irina Alexeva. As far as Luana Santos, she has 4-1 in her last 5 fights. She made her debut against Juliana Miller and won that fight by, I think, second round knockout. Yeah, I mean, I think it's another close fight here. Both these girls are judo black belts. I don't think that either girl has the best striking, but Santos should have the striking advantage here. She absolutely destroyed Juliana Miller on the feet. Solid performance there and a good finish. But I don't know. I went back and watched a lot of Santos fights. She makes a lot of mistakes on the mat. She's giving up her back. She's losing position. So I feel like Egger is going to have some opportunities here to maybe get on top and win some minutes down on the ground. I think it's another close fight. I imagine this fight's lined pretty closely as well. Weezy, what are you doing with this one here?
So I think that these two ladies are basically the exact same fighter, just 12 years difference. They're both phenomenal judo black belts. They both have really good ground games. They both have really opportunistic submission games, and they both suck at striking. They're the same fighter, and that's why you're paying up for Santos here. Santos is only 23, while Egger is 35. Same height, same reach. They're both orthodox fighters. They're both high-level judo black belts. Yeah, this is going to be a very close fight. But Luana Santos, I think people are overrating her striking because she fought Juliana Miller.
Yeah,
I mean, she knocked her out in that first round. But like, if you were to sit, like, I got one of my stepbrothers is a boxer, and if I sat him down and I made him watch that fight, he'd puke.
Yeah.
Puke watching Juliana Miller and Stephanie Egger, Juliana Miller and Luana Santos. It looked like two fourth grade girls going at it in the schoolyard. I mean, like the punches, it was like, it was like that. And it was just that the slaps that Santos was landing in close were landing harder than Juliana Miller's. So, this is about as 50-50 as it gets for me. I think that, like I say, these ladies have the exact same skill set as mixed martial artists. It's just Luana's 23, but you got a little more experience with Egger, 5 more fights overall, 15 more minutes of pro cage time. And Egger's got 5 more fights at the UFC level and about 35 more minutes of octagon time. So we can say that while Santos is the younger fighter, it's Egger who's more experienced and Egger who's faced the better strength schedule for sure. So we're getting a discount on Egger here. Also, when I'm looking at a 12-year age difference, I want to make sure that the older fighter isn't shop worn. And that's not Stephanie Egger. She's only got 12 professional fights, and those 12 professional fights have only lasted 80 minutes. So Egger's still got a lot of fights left in her. She's been a high-level competitor since she was very young, as has Luana Santos. So right now, I think Egger's about plus 150. Or maybe I'm wrong about that. Where is she?
165.
Plus 165. Yeah, I mean, I think Egger's the side here. I think you can flip a coin about how this fight's going to go. I could definitely see myself throwing a unit on Stephanie Egger here because I've taped both these ladies already. I don't really see any differences except for the age, Brady.
Yeah, I'm seeing it the exact same way. And I think that win for Egger, that Eileen Perez win, is just aging really, really good. I mean, that's a great win against Eileen Perez there. And Luana Santos, her best win's probably what? Juliana Miller?
Yeah, I mean, like the girls, Bartira and Waleska, they weren't actually bad fighters, right? Waleska had a good ground game. She was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Bartira Rodriguez actually looked like she had some decent striking. But Santos is a judoka first, as is Egger. So I don't think you're going to see either one of these ladies winning striking exchanges at range here. They're both not very good. So I just see this being a very close fight.
Yep, and the line definitely does not indicate that it's going to be a close fight. We have Santos minus 190, and we got Egger plus 165. And this is interesting. Like, I had the under potentially written down. Maybe I didn't love it, but I definitely don't love it where it's at, man. It opened up plus 185, which is good. I mean, I wouldn't hate that. Plus 185, and it went from plus 185 to minus 146 in the span of 5 minutes.
Yeah. I would have loved to get that plus 185. I mean, I think Egger in her 6 fights, I think 5 of them, Brady, have finished inside the distance. So yeah, you see why they're going violence on this one. You see why it's so juiced.
Yeah, that's a wild plus 185 to minus 146 is a wild line move there. And maybe Propaholic got on that plus 185.
He got the Brundage under 1.5 at plus 120 last week, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
He did. I paid minus 196 on it.
I paid minus 200 and had it in a 2-leg parlay that didn't cash.
Oh gosh. But yeah, Egger for me as well, dog or pass. We'll see if we get there. All right, moving on to the next fight. We got Song Kenan going against Kevin Jousset. We got Song Kenan. He's 33 years old, 6 foot with a 71-inch reach. Jousset is 30 years old, 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. We got Jousset 3 years younger, 2-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage. Song Kenan 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Derek Krantz, a knockout win against Colin Potter, knockout loss to Max Griffin and Ian Gary, then a decision win against Rolando Bedoya. As far as Kevin Jousset, made his debut against Kiefer Crosby, won that fight by first round submission. So another fight that I think is super close here. I mean, Kevin Jousset came into the UFC, and it was one of those fights from like, what is the UFC doing? Why is the UFC bringing in, and really both these guys, but especially that Kiefer Crosby, I don't really think is UFC caliber, and it definitely showed. Kevin Jousset went out there, took him down late first round, and like insta-tapped him. It was just a terrible performance from Kiefer Crosby But to be honest, up until that sub, I mean, Kiefer Crosby was having some success on the feet. Kevin Jousset is pretty hittable. He's very low volume. He's super tough. I think he's a judo black belt. I think he's solid. He's nothing crazy, but this is a guy that can be very, very low volume. I think we got a close fight here on our hands. Song Kenan, this guy has a ton of power. I could see him potentially hurting Kevin Jousset, who kind of blocks punches with his face. Another fight I feel like should just be lined a lot closer. Did you end up watching tape on Kevin Jousset?
No, because I just want to watch that Crosby fight because I'm still mentally scarred from the Priscus Foganalo fight and the Caleb Rideout fight, 2 of the worst fights that have ever happened ever. And they're both 5-round fights, of course. So like, as a content creator, when you're watching a horse shit 5-round fight, and you've already watched 3 rounds of it, you're kind of pot committed at that point. You're like, well, shit, what if something happens in the 4th or the 5th that I have to have notes on? And it's not going to happen. You know that like nothing is going to happen, and you wind up watching the fight anyway. That dude, Priscus Foganolo, is like 50. That Jousset beat. He had that guy Foganolo hadn't fought in like 4 years, and he won a championship beating that guy. It's like, what? So we didn't know anything about Jousset coming in, and he was fighting a guy from Ireland who had to make the trip from Ireland all the way to Australia. That fight was made on Fight Week, I think, if I remember correctly, Brady. So, yeah, I don't know what Jousset's doing here. I mean, I guess he's buddies with the city kickboxing guys because that's where he trains. Yeah. Song Kenan's a veteran. He's got a ton of power. He's fought good guys, combined record of 26-26 in the UFC. But the guys that he's beating, Brady, Song Kenan's wins are over guys that have a combined UFC record of 1 win and 12 losses. Yeah. So Song is not beating good competition, you know. And Jousset's a pretty good, well-rounded guy. He trains at a great camp. But here's the problem, right? This was supposed to be in China. So now Jousset, instead of having to go to China, has to go to Vegas. Song Kenan, instead of fighting at home, has to go to Vegas. And this all, you know, became news to them like 2 weeks ago. So it's a fight that's got some narrative things already going into it. And then, you know, I mean, Song's getting up there a little bit. I like Jousset's size. I like Kenan's strength of schedule and experience advantage. And I love Song Kenan's one-punch power that he has on the feet. I mean, the guy's been in there with Ian Gary and dropped him. You know, he's had decent performances, but just the wins don't give you anything to really lean on there and say, like, all right, you know, I think maybe Kenan could be a favorite here. But where is this line? It is.
It's actually closing in. So Jousset was minus 185 yesterday. Now he's minus 155. Song Kenan was plus 160 when I was looking at it, and then he's plus 135. So some money is actually coming in on Song, and that's kind of where I leaned as well initially.
Yeah, I mean, he's got there are things that you like there, obviously. The experience, the UFC experience, the strength of schedule, and the power. So I mean, but this is one I did not get to tape yet. So I'm going to stay away from analyzing it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, if you're having trouble falling asleep tonight, you can watch some of those Kiefer or Kevin Jousset 5-round fights.
Yeah, oh God. Yeah, if you're out there and you're researching, don't watch the Priscus Foganolo fight and don't watch the Caleb Rideout fight. Those are horrible fights. They make Modestas Bukauskas Cage Warriors fights look exciting.
Yeah, I watched one of the 5-round fights. I forget which one it was. It was that bad. I almost broke my laptop. It was so bad.
Yeah, and then you're like, this is the guy you signed? You brought this guy into the UFC off of that performance over a 40-year-old Priscus Foganolo who hasn't fought in 4 years? You know, I mean, and then now we got Carlos Vera. He's in the UFC. We got Rayan dos Santos. She's in the UFC. All this that we can put cards like this together. When I'm sick and you're about to have a baby coming off a loss, what the hell are they doing to us, Brady?
I don't know, man. It's I feel like they could have just, I don't know. They didn't do a good job with some of these fights. Maybe we'll get to a better fight coming up here soon. All right, we have Hyun-sung Park going against Shannon Ross.
So let's wait for a good fight. Just a little bit longer, guys.
Shannon Ross is in the UFC, guys.
Yep.
What a time to be alive. All right. So we got Hyun-sung Park. He's 28 years old, 5'7" with a 66-inch reach. Shannon Ross, 34 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. Park, 6 years younger, 1 inch height advantage, same reach there. Hyun-sung Park, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Made his debut against Sung Guk Choi. Won that fight by 3rd round sub. As far as Shannon Ross, he is 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Had a knockout loss against Vinicius Salvador. Had a knockout loss against Cleton Rodriguez. And then had a knockout loss against Jesus Aguilar. See, I was live in attendance for that Aguilar fight. I had a bet on Aguilar inside the distance. I think the majority of people thought if he did finish Ross, it would be by sub, right? Aguilar's a grappler, BJJ black belt, really good grappler there. 62-inch reach. He hadn't had a knockout yet prior to the Shannon Ross fight. And to all of our surprise, he went out there, and I think it was the very first punch that Aguilar landed just flatlined Shannon Ross. And, you know, I thought we might have witnessed like the first death in the UFC octagon. It was bad. Ross was out cold, and I cashed the bet. I was happy. I was celebrating. And then I started to feel bad. I was like, is this guy okay? Like, I'm actually worried for Shannon Ross. I'm like, is this guy all right? He ended up being all right, which is good. But, I mean, that's a terrible look. I mean, how do you get knocked out by Jesus Aguilar? He has to have the shortest reach for a male in the UFC at 62-inch reach, 62 inches. No knockouts yet. And this guy gets flatlined in like 20-some seconds. I mean, just a terrible look. So it's actually funny to me that Park's like minus 500 here, because I feel like that's way off. But at the same time, you can't take Shannon Ross. I mean, this guy just can't take a shot, and he's taken so much damage as of late. With that said, though, Sung is not some murderous power puncher, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like Park to win. I can't pick Shannon Ross, but I also can't lay minus 500 on Park. His performance against Sung Gok Choi, it looked like it took him a little bit to get going. He got a late finish there, but I don't think he's nothing special. But, I just don't think Shannon Ross really belongs in the UFC. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one here?
Yeah, this is a rough one. I mean, Shannon Ross should have never been here in the first place. I mean, he got his ass whooped by a fraud on Dana White's Contender Series and somehow parlayed that into a contract. And he got the contract because they were like, wow, this dude is durable. I mean, they're like, he's durable. And then he makes his UFC debut, and then the fight after that, and his entire UFC career, Brady, it's lasted 76 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
76 seconds. And he's been knocked out twice in that 76 seconds. The one of them came at the hands of Jesus Aguilar, who had never knocked out anybody, and knocked him out with the first punch that he threw. I don't know if you're an old school wrestling buff, but like Clayton Rodriguez almost knocked him out with an Iceman King Parsons-esque butt, where you go jumping into the air, you turn your back, and you launch your ass into your opponent. Clayton did that, and it worked. And he knocked him out, shortly thereafter. I mean, if you guys don't believe me, go watch Shannon Ross's entire UFC career. We'll wait. It'll take you 76 seconds. Go watch. Seriously, we'll be here when you get back. Go watch. We'll be here. Go watch the Clayton fight. It'll take you less than a minute. Go watch the Aguilar fight. That'll take you 16 seconds. We're waiting. I gotta blow my nose. Hang on just a second here, dude.
Should I play some music in the background while we wait?
Yeah, like something nice and relaxing, something like there we go. Now we're cooking.
Is everybody back yet?
Do you believe us now? What is this guy doing here, right? I mean, come on. You got to just see his whole UFC career. It doesn't look very good, does it? That's why Hyun-sung Park, who's not a guy that should be minus 500 in the UFC, is minus 500 in this spot. In addition, now Park, who was supposed to be fighting in China, now has to come to Vegas. Shannon Ross has to go from Australia to Vegas for this ass whooping. Then he's going to lose. Then he's going to get handed his walking papers. And that's going to be one long flight back to Australia to be a mechanic now for the rest of his life. And yeah, Brady, it was scary because that knockout was nasty against Aguilar. And now we're not, we're joking about this guy, but he's been knocked out violently several times in a row by fighters that he's not on their level. And it's going to happen again on Saturday, most likely. And what's going to happen to Shannon Ross? Because this has all been put on him, even though he probably didn't deserve to be here. And now he's facing the consequences of it, dude. This is not good, man. I don't know why this fight is happening. Can't you just cut this guy?
I don't think.
Is the UFC hurting for cash? Is the $10K that you got to pay this bum to show up too much for your stockholders to absorb to save this man's life, to maybe give him a little bit of longevity and a little bit of dignity? He doesn't deserve to be here, man. This is messed up.
It is kind of messed up. But yeah, I don't know. They're trying to build up Hyun-sung Park, I suppose.
Well, I mean, build him up. I mean, like, but shouldn't he beat somebody decent in order to build him up? I mean, is this how you're building up guys? Throw him some bum,
Yeah.
that doesn't deserve to be here? I mean, like, man, don't bet on him and don't do it. I mean, minus 500.
Yeah, it's terrible, man.
Go watch this guy's tape. He's getting pieced up by Choi.
Mm-hmm.
Sung Choi was winning the first 2 rounds. He was too stupid to even try a takedown until the third. I mean, he wasn't even having any success up until that point. So, I mean, man, this is rough, dude. Get Shannon Ross out of here for his safety. For his safety.
I agree. But I also think this line's just stupid. But you can't bet on Shannon Ross.
I'm not going to do it.
You can't do it. Imagine, though, plus 375. What is that? So, plus 375, 5 units, Weezy, will win you 18.75 units, Weezy.
Yeah, that man.
18.
Can you imagine, like, if one of us like put out on Twitter, we're max betting Shannon? It would be the talk of MMA Twitter. People were like, "What the hell?" Like, Weezy has got a brain tumor. They'd be like, "That's not a cold. That's a brain tumor that he's got there." So, man, I'm not betting this fight, dude. No chance in hell.
I'm not. And then what I did have circled was obviously violence, but another stupid line. The under 1.5 is minus 170. Like, Park is not a murderous power puncher. He kind of takes a little bit to get going. He's a grappler. So the under at minus 170 makes 0 sense to me. But at the same time, Aguilar knocked this guy out with 1 punch. So maybe it does finish under. So just not a fight I'm interested in from a betting perspective.
Yeah, me neither, man. Hopefully Hyun-sung Park gets a takedown and rear naked chokes this guy out so that he doesn't have to take any more unnecessary brain damage here.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe he'll get knocked out by like a Bruce Buffer. Actually, be Martinez in there, probably Joe Martinez. So I don't know if Martinez does those fist bumps, but maybe the person putting like Vaseline on him might get him out of there before the fight even starts. Durability just not there. All right, we'll move on to the next fight then, Weezy. We have a fun matchup, finally, a fun matchup, a striker versus grappler matchup. We got Mudaerji going against Allan Nascimento. We got Mudaerji, 27 years old, 5'8", with a 72-inch reach. Allan Nascimento, 32 years old, 5'8", with a 69-inch reach. Mudaerji, 5 years younger, same height, and Mudaerji with a 3-inch reach advantage. Mudaerji is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Sub loss to Luis Smoka. Decision win against André Sukumtov, a knockout win against Malcolm Gordon, decision win against Zaruk Adashev, and then a submission loss to Matt Schnell. As far as Allan Nascimento, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, decision loss to Rolian Paiva by decision. That was on the Contender Series. He made his debut against Tagir Ulanbekov, lost that fight by decision, and then won a decision against Jake Hadley, and then submitted Carlos Hernandez in his last fight out. So, I mean, this is about a striker versus grappler as you're going to get. One thing that jumps off the page to me and probably many is going to be the fact that when Mudaerji's losing, he is losing by submission. I mean, this guy gets submitted a ton. Mudaerji has been submitted in all 5 of his losses. He's taken on Allan Nascimento, who's an incredible grappler. He's a very, very good grappler. I don't think he has the best wrestling in the world, but I think it actually is improving. It's been looking a lot better. Obviously, he can take the back standing as well. It's kind of one of those situations where I think if Nascimento does get the fight down to the mat even once, that could be it. Just because any time we've seen Mudaerji off his back, it just looked terrible. So, yeah, Nascimento is going to try to get this fight down to the mat, and if he does, I think he makes quick work of Mudaerji here. But Mudaerji is a good striker. He's going to have a decent-sized reach advantage as well. And if you can keep it standing, he's going to have some success. I just struggle to see him keep it standing for 15 minutes. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one here?
Yeah, great fight here. I like violence in this spot because Nascimento is 15 wins and 0 losses to the submission in his career. Mudaerji on the other side, 1 win and 5 losses to the submission. But make no mistake, right? The bookies are telling you, all right, Nascimento wins this fight 75% of the time. They got a minus 300 handle on him right now. So, but this is a striker versus grappler matchup. If Nascimento doesn't get takedowns, Mudaerji's going to punt his head into the third row, and he's going to be the first guy to finish this guy, because Mudaerji is nasty at distance striking range. This guy is huge for the flyweight division, 5'8", 72-inch reach, southpaw. That left hand of his that comes straight down the middle is nasty. He could catch Nascimento coming in on a takedown. And don't forget, Nascimento is a phenomenal Brazilian jiu-jitsu player. He's not a wrestler. You know, this guy's not a wrestler. He's going to need to either pull guard or get a takedown here. And if he does, it's going to look easy for him. If he doesn't, Mudaerji is going to look minus 200 to minus 300 if Nascimento is unable to get takedown. So very interesting matchup here. Don't count out Mudaerji. He's as nasty as it gets right now in the flyweight division at distance striking range, I think. I don't know if Brady, if you can think of anyone at 125 pounds who's just as dangerous as Mudaerji is at distance. I might be forgetting about a couple of people here, but when you're talking about a 72-inch reach from a southpaw, that's probably more like 5'9" or 5'10". I just don't know a lot of guys that are bringing the kind of nasty power that Sue does at flyweight. Do you? Can you think of anyone like big knockout artist at flyweight? But Cop?
Yeah, Cop Figgy when he was at flyweight had a lot of power.
Yeah, he had to move up. Zaruk Adashev, the Lion? Maybe not.
Yeah. I'm surprised Mudaerji didn't knock out Adashev. I probably lost money on that, on the violence in that fight. But yeah, striker versus grappler matchup. We have Nascimento, who is one of the biggest favorites on the card. He is currently sitting at, where's he at?
Minus 300, I think.
Yeah, minus 310 now. Minus 310 is Mudaerji plus 260. And yeah, the over under set at 1.5 rounds, the over 1.5 minus 180. The under 1.5 plus 150. I would like 2.5, but 1.5. I don't think it's terrible, but I would like 2.5, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe you can ladder it. Maybe you can do a little bit on the fight doesn't go, a little bit on the under 1.5. But I'm going to be looking for a 2.5 or a fight doesn't go here, just because these guys are both very dangerous. If this fight gets to the ground, Nascimento is probably finishing it with a submission. If he can't get it to the ground, Mudaerji's going to be hurting him on the feet badly because that dude's striking is nasty. So striker versus grappler, I think somebody gets served. It's just a question of how long it takes.
Yep. Might wait for that 2.5 or fight doesn't go as well. But yeah, I like violence here. It's something that really stuck out. And then I'll be curious to see where they put the Nascimento by sub. They always make the sub lines a lot juicier than some of these knockout props. So maybe the sub's even playable for Nascimento, which I would love. It just makes a ton of sense. Almost as much sense as Joaquim Silva by sub last night at plus 400.
Yeah, we were close. It is what it is.
Oh, so close. So close. All right. We'll move on to the next fight. We have Tatsuro Taira going against Carlos Hernandez. We got Taira 23 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach. Carlos Hernandez, 30 years old, 5'8", with a 67-inch reach. Taira 7 years younger, 1-inch height disadvantage and a 3-inch reach advantage. Taira 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Obviously, he's undefeated. He made his debut against Carlos Candelario, won that fight by decision, submitted CJ Vergara, submitted Jesus Aguilar, and then beat Edgar Chairez by decision. As far as Carlos Hernandez, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Contender Series decision win against Daniel Barres, a decision win against Victor Altamirano in his debut, submission loss to Allan Nascimento, and then a decision win against that fraud, Denise Bondar, his last time out. So yeah, Taira, he is currently sitting at minus 500, which is tied for the biggest favorite on the entire card. And yeah, I mean, I like Taira here. This guy's only 23 years old. I think we're going to see some significant improvements out of this guy each and every time. I think the striking, it's okay, but the grappling is always what impressed me the most with Taira. This guy's one of the slickest grapplers I've seen. His back takes, his transition to the arm bar. I mean, this guy's a very, very high-level grappler. And yeah, I think I'll have no problem getting this fight down on the mat. I don't think his wrestling's amazing or anything like that, but I think it's good enough to take down Hernandez. And once he does get you to the mat, it's either the round or the fight's over more often than not. So yeah, Taira, big favorite. What are you gonna do? The sub prop, you're probably have to lay juice on it. I'm assuming like the over under, like most of these fights, is set at 1.5 as well, which is ridiculous. So yeah, not much really sticking out here, Weezy.
Yeah, it's a hard one, but when you look at these things, right? You look at Tatsuro Taira minus 500, Hyun-sung Park minus 500.
Mm.
And I mean, I get it that Park's a bantamweight, but I mean, like if Taira were to fight Park, he'd be minus 500. So it goes to show you, bet on good fighters, don't bet against bad fighters. Because if you bet against bad fighters last week, you were all over Punahele Soriano, like I was for one unit, and you wound up betting against a bad fighter, but you had your money on a bad fighter. That was the problem. Tatsuro Taira is a guy who does deserve to be minus 500 because we haven't seen any holes in the game yet. The striking's actually pretty good. The wrestling's pretty good. But once he gets you to the ground, it's the round or the fight every damn time. And a lot of times he even gets you to put yourself there, because I've seen guys jump guillotine against Taira 2 or 3 different times. And then he just steps over in the half guard. He waits for you to burn out your arms like he did in the Aguilar fight, like he did in the Gutiérrez fight. And then he just stays on top for the rest of the round. He either gets you to give up your back. Great armbar transitions from Tatsuro. Great back takes. And great position over submission grappling. So with Carlos Hernandez, only 61% takedown defense, getting out-controlled 13% to 6%, despite the fact that he's attempted more takedowns than his opponents have. Bad look. Getting submitted by Allan Nascimento in the first round. Bad look when you're about to face Tatsuro Taira, who would be a favorite against Allan Nascimento, albeit probably a pretty small one. And I think that's what they're setting up here, Brady. I think Nascimento versus Taira is going to be next, because they'll often square off guys from the same card so that they have the same layoff. So I think that that's going to be the next fight that we see for Taira, is if he wins and if the other guy wins, I think they're going to see that next time out, Nascimento versus Taira here. But if Carlos can stop the takedowns, his boxing's probably going to be a little bit better than Tatsuro's. Chicago stand up for Carlos Hernandez, a Valley Flow striking guy. Good amateur career behind Carlos as well. He's a good, well-rounded fighter. Cashed on him versus Denise Bondar, but this is a different type of matchup. I think Tatsuro gets him out of there via submission or wins a decision. But I think Tatsuro's ground game makes the difference here.
Yep, right there with you. The over-under set at 1.5 rounds. The over 1.5 minus 200. The under 1.5 is plus 160.
I mean, I'm not laying minus 200 on an over, in a Tatsuro Taira fight with his grappling. So it's a stay away from me.
Yep, same here. We'll see what opens up later in the week there. All right, we'll move on to the next fight. We have Jamie Mullarkey going against Nasrat Haqparast. We got Mullarkey's 29 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. Haqparast, 28 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. We have Haqparast 1 year younger, 2-inch height disadvantage, and a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Mullarkey 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Rafa Garcia. Decision losses to Bobby Green and Dan Hooker. A decision win against John McDessie. And a decision win against Landon Quinones his last time out. Jamie Mullarkey 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Knockout loss to Jalen Turner. Decision win against Michael Johnson and Francisco Prado. Knockout loss against Muhammad Naimov. And then a decision win against John Mullarkey. John McDessie. I was really impressed with Haqparast's performance in his last fight against Landon Quinones. Just a very tough guy. He landed like 170-something significant strikes in that fight. Battled through a little bit of adversity. Quinones hurt Haqparast the legs early on, and Haqparast landed a ton of big shots. I thought he was about to get Quinones out of there, but Quinones just super tough. And I just imagine Haqparast landing like some of those same big shots on Mullarkey. I just don't know if Mullarkey's tough enough to take those. I mean, Mullarkey, I don't think he has the best chin. He's super, super hittable. Like we saw Naimov knock him out as a big underdog. We saw Michael Johnson knock this guy down. We even saw John Makdessi. They didn't count it as a knockdown, but I watched the fight, and I think Makdessi knocked him down late second round as well. So, yeah, I think Mullarkey's always been kind of overrated. He was a massive favorite against Naimov, lost that fight. He was a massive favorite against Makdessi. I kind of thought he lost that fight, but yeah, this is Haqparast here. Mullarkey is a dog here, though, now. So I think these odds make a lot more sense to me. I like Haqparast here, potentially even by knockout. Like if he's going out there landing this much volume, I think he could potentially get a knockout, but I like Haqparast to win this fight regardless. I don't really see Jamie Mullarkey having a ton of success in terms of the wrestling. So yeah, give me a Haqparast here. I don't know if it's by decision or knockout though. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think this one stays standing, and I think the guy that's much more defensively responsible in Nasrat Haqparast wins the fight. I love his footwork a lot more. I love his defensive responsibility a lot more. And he's a southpaw too. So that's always nice. Power weapons for both guys will be on display. Nasrat's been finished in 2 of 5 pro losses. Mullarkey finished in 4 of 6 losses. And yeah, look, Mullarkey lost to Makdessi. Mullarkey arguably lost to Michael Johnson. His only real win in his last 5 fights came against a short notice 21-year-old Francisco Prado, who had to fly from Argentina to Australia like the week of the fight because of short notice. So I don't think Jamie Mullarkey's any good, frankly. And I cashed on him with Naimov. I should have cashed against him with Makdessi. And Haqparast, I think, wins this fight by decision. I'm going to be looking at that line. If I can get it at better than plus 100, I think Haqparast is going to just win all the minutes of this fight.
Yeah, you should get it a lot better than plus 100, I think. But yeah,
he's pretty juiced, right? I mean, what's the money line on this?
It's not too wide. At least yesterday. Haqparast. Oh gosh, it got minus 220. When I was looking at it, he was minus 175 a couple days ago.
Oh yeah.
He got hammered.
Yeah, we missed it by a couple of days here. He was minus 175. Now he's minus 220. And yeah, I get it. Like, he's so defensively responsible. He's so hard to find, Brady. Really well coached. Southpaw. The footwork and the lateral movement is phenomenal. I think Jamie's going to have just a nightmare of a time trying to find this dude, and Nasrat should make it look easy.
Yep. I agree. All right, moving on to the next fight. Then we have André Muniz going against Jun-yong Park. We got Muniz, 33 years old, 6'1" with a 78-inch reach. Park, 32 years old, 5'10" with a 73-inch reach. We got Park 1 year younger. Muniz with a 3-inch height advantage and a 5-inch reach advantage. Muniz 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Submission win against Ronaldo Souza, a submission win against Eric Anders, a decision win against Uriah Hall, a submission loss against Brendan Allan, and then a knockout loss to Paul Craig. As far as Jun-yong Park, he has 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Knockout loss against Gregory Rodriguez, decision win against Eric Anders, a submission win against Joseph Holmes, Dennis Tuolumne, and Albert Duraev in his last 5 fights there. So yeah, I mean, Muniz is a guy that I kind of feel like if this fight was made like a year and a half ago, this line would actually be flipped. I just think people are very, very low on André Muniz as of late, which, yeah, I mean, it kind of frustrating. This is a guy in Muniz who's just a freaking high-level grappler. I mean, he went out there and submitted Jacare Souza, which just still makes no sense to me. And, that's not happening by accident. This guy's a very, very high-level grappler. But Weezy, it seems like in his last couple of fights, he kind of fell in love with the box. I mean, this guy is not going for takedowns. He's going out there trying to strike with Brendan Allan. He's going out there not taking down Paul Craig, which I guess it makes some sense. Like, do you want to go to the ground with Brendan Allan, Paul Craig? Probably not, I suppose. But, I mean, I think he's going to have to get back to the grappling here. And if he doesn't, I mean, he's going to get smoked. But at the same time, I just can't trust Muniz. This is a guy, I don't trust the cardio. I don't trust the durability. He's been finishing all of his losses. I don't like his gas tank, and I don't like how his fight IQ lately as well. So I like Park. I just hate the line. I think, Muniz is getting a little bit disrespected here. I mean, those last 2 losses, they're not terrible losses. This is a completely different matchup. I might look at like Muniz sub 1. I feel like that's his path to victory. But if this fight does reach the second round, I think Park's gonna break this guy. So I like violence here. Striker versus grappler matchup. Park's shown some grappling in his last couple of fights as well. I think it's kind of Muniz early, Park late for me. Weezy, how are you seeing this one?
Yeah, I kind of see it pretty similarly. I mean, we say it all the time on Stat Diggers, Brady, that there's nothing more infuriating than a top-notch grappler who falls in love with his hands. And what adds insult to injury when that happens is when the phenomenal grappler who chooses to strike over grappling is also tremendously chinny, right? I mean, come on, man. I mean, if you're chinny, just fucking grapple. Get submitted. You know, I mean, at least get submitted by Paul Craig. I mean, you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. Why are you afraid of Paul Craig's ground game? You can't prepare for that? You can't prepare for Brendan Allen's. I mean, like, these guys are not as good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as you are. So why are you playing their game? It shows piss poor fight IQ. It shows piss poor coaching. And it also shows that this guy probably isn't even that confident in his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu anymore. But Jun-yong Park, I mean, he's a decent grappler, but he's not on Muniz's level, not even close.
Nope.
So this could be a really nice get-right spot here for André Muniz. I mean, this is a fight where if he does have confidence in his grappling and he does go to it early, he could look easily minus 300 here. He could get a first-round finish, like you said. But, you know, that's going to be on André. But the thing is like, I didn't bet him against Craig and I didn't bet him against Allan. I think I might have sprinkled the submission in one of those two for a quarter unit or something like that, but it didn't happen. That's fine. But either way, I do think that where this line is, if André Muniz grapples here, you got to be feeling like you're getting a discount on this line if he grapples. And Jun-yong Park's takedown defense is below 70%. He does get out controlled. He out controls his opponents at a 2-to-1 ratio, which is actually pretty good. But, you know, I think that Andre's got obviously a path to victory here. And even if he stands with this dude, it's not like Jun-yong Park is that much better of a boxer. And plus, Muniz is 3 inches taller than him, and he's got a 5-inch reach advantage, and he's a southpaw. So I kind of feel like this could be recency bias, giving us a huge discount on a guy in Muniz who's only 1 year older than Jun-yong Park and doesn't have really that as many miles on the tires, with only 165 minutes of pro cage time for Muniz compared to 216 for Park. So, yeah, I could see Muniz getting this win here.
No, I mean, I could too. And it kind of feels like once a spot last week, I think it was the Gooden fight where I'm like, this might be one of those spots where you just plug your nose and bet the dog. It's ugly, but I mean, yeah, it kind of feels like it could be a good get right spot. It's just, I do have some serious concerns if this gets out of the first round. I mean, his cardio, Muniz just looks terrible, and you don't want to gas out against Park. I mean, Park's been using his conditioning as a weapon lately, like breaking these guys, which I love to see. So I think I might attack this from like a violence perspective. I think the Park round 2, round 3 props make a lot of sense. I think Muniz early props make a lot of sense. I think the total is probably set at 1.5. It is doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but minus 110 for the under. I hate that. I hate it. I would like a 2.5 where the fight doesn't go. So just randomly putting totals at 1.5 these days, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I get why this is at 1.5. I would have loved to have bet the under 2.5 here, but my prop template, Brady, it really loves the over 1.5 for this fight because Jun-yong Park at the UFC level, there it is. 8 of his 9 fights have went over 1.5 rounds, and for Muniz, it's 4 of 7. So more than 50% of Muniz's fights have went over 75% of the total. So 12 of 16, 75% have went over, but you're only paying 54% on the line. And that's odd because 62.5% of middleweight fights do go over. So it's underpriced when we do all 3 metric comparisons. It's what we call a trifecta bet. It looks like a very underpriced over. Now, obviously, Muniz could get a first round submission. It could absolutely happen. But I think it's a plus EV bet when you look at the histories of both fighters and the fact that Muniz has been grappling a lot less recently.
Yeah, I think the one way it would lose would be either a slam knockout, like we've seen, slam knockout, or Muniz sub. I think would be the 2 potential ways this one loses. I don't know if they're gonna have concrete in the octagon like they did in Austin. It's hilarious. Not
That was
hilarious
wild.
for Jousset and Reese, but it was kind of interesting that played out.
Dude, there were a lot of heads bouncing off the canvas, dude. Bobby Green, Zach Reese, Solecki. Dude, Kerry Hatley. What the hell was that, dude? Full back mount. Bobby Green's going nowhere. He's getting his head pounded off the canvas. God, somebody check on Bobby Green. That was awful.
Yeah, I mean, he was out on like 3 or 4 different occasions. Like, it was rough.
And it's not like he was in a position where it was like, oh, he was so close to getting away. He's flat on his stomach, flattened out with Turner in mount. Oh God, that was hard to watch, dude.
It's hard to watch. It's hard to watch for sure. Kerry Hatley, let's get some help.
Let's get some help, dude. Come on.
Gosh. And typically Hatley's all right. I mean, he's a good ref.
Yeah.
What the heck was that?
We've never had to mention his name ever on this show, and we've ripped referees a new asshole. I mean, poor Keith Peterson, poor Dan Murgliata. How many times have we said those guys need to get help? I don't even think Keith Peterson drinks, and we accuse him of being an alcoholic almost weekly. We've never had to use Kerry Hatley's name before, so that was odd. That was out of character.
Very out of character, but
pulled a Steve Mazzagatti on us.
Yeah. It was bad, man. But moving on to the co-main event for this card, a short notice fight that was put together. Khalil Rountree was supposed to fight that liar, Azamat Mirzakhanov. And then in steps Anthony Smith. So we got Khalil Rountree. He's 33 years old, 6'1" with a 76-inch reach. Anthony Smith, 35 years old, 6'4" with a 76-inch reach. We got Khalil Rountree 2 years younger. It's going to be Smith with a 3-inch height advantage, same reach there. Anthony Smith, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Jimmy Crute. Submission win against Ryan Spann. Knockout loss against Ankalaev. Decision loss against Walker. Decision win against Spann. As far as Khalil Rountree, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss to Prochnio. Knockout win against Bukauskas. Roberson. Decision win against Jacoby. Knockout win against Chris Daukaus. So we've always, when we're breaking down Khalil Rountree fights the last several years, we're always like, okay, which Rountree is going to show up? But in the last couple of fights, the good Rountree's shown up. I mean, the last time Rountree dropped the ball was a while ago at this point. Last time he dropped the ball was against Marcin Prochnio. So that was a long time ago. But since then, this guy's looked like an absolute killer. Bukauskas, brutal knockout, injured Bukauskas' leg, put him out for, about a year. The Carl Roberson knockout, probably one of the most brutal knockout wins I've seen. I mean, just beat the crap out of Roberson. The Justin Jacoby fight, I thought he lost, but the fact that he was that competitive with Jacoby across 15 minutes was impressive. And then he just ended Chris Daukaus' UFC career in his last fight. Another brutal knockout with a nasty follow-up shot. I mean, Khalil Rountree's fighting mean lately. And he's taken on Anthony Smith. I mean, in theory here, I don't think Anthony Smith's looked that amazing as of late. The Ryan Spann win was a very close fight. He almost got finished in the second round. The Johnny Walker fight was a terrible look for Smith. It looked like he was looking for a way out late in that third round. The Ankalaev, he got injured in that fight, I think. But yeah, not the last couple fights, not the best looks. But in theory, Smith has a path to victory. Like if Smith gets Rountree down, I mean, I think he could probably just style on him on the ground. Like the times we've seen Rountree off his back, it's looked terrible. He's been finished multiple times on the ground, right? So I don't know. It's a very interesting fight there. I think it's borderline a striker versus grappler matchup. I know Smith has some striking as well, but I don't think he's going to really want to strike too much with Rountree. I think if you're Smith, you probably try to get this fight down to the mat, and if he does, he could potentially finish the fight. Very interesting co-main event here, Weezy. How you feel about this one?
Yeah, I do like Rountree here. I get why he's the big favorite. He's a little bit younger, almost 2 years younger, a lot less tread on the tires. Anthony Smith, 55 professional fights, 55, 20 at the UFC level since 2013. Over 210 minutes in the UFC octagon, over 400 minutes in the pro cage, So this guy, he's just, he's been through it. He's been doing this for 16 years. He's lost 18 fights. 18. So with a guy like Rountree, you got a guy who's just absolutely on fire lately. And I was telling Brady, you kind of got to throw out that Marcin Prochnio performance. It was so bad, but it was on Fight Island, and we've seen people just have that completely non-their performance when they go all the way out there to fight in Abu Dhabi, especially because that was during COVID and, they were doing all the, you got to be quarantined for a week, and then you go over there, you fight at 4 o'clock in the morning. Some guys just weren't showing up. But if you throw out that Bracknell fight, this guy Rountree is really dangerous. I mean, he's a very, very dangerous fighter. Now, is Smitty as good of a kickboxer right now as Dustin Jacoby? I mean, I bet if you had some people inside of Factory X, you could find out. If those guys were doing rounds in the gym, how is Smitty holding up with a guy like Dustin Jacoby? That would be some information I'd love to have, because Jacoby and Rountree were very well matched. I thought Jacoby absolutely won that fight, but the judges were giving it to Rountree evidently based on damage, even though he really didn't do any. We never saw Jacoby hurt in that fight. So Anthony Smith, not the best minute winner, right? He's got 10 UFC wins by way of finish, only 2 by decision, and he's 2-4 in decisions at the UFC level. We can't count on Smitty to wrestle, Brady. That's a problem, because if you're facing Khalil Rountree and you want to bet somebody versus Khalil Rountree, you better, you want that guy to be able to at least have the possibility of getting takedowns, right? Anthony Smith has completed 8 takedowns in 20 UFC fights. 8 takedowns, 20 fights. So, and Khalil Rountree is only getting taken down 14 times in 14 UFC fights. So I think that this is going to be a kickboxing match. And if it is, you got a guy like Anthony Smith, 7 knockdowns in 20 UFC fights, but you got a guy like Khalil Rountree who's got 12 knockdowns in 14 UFC fights. Khalil Rountree is landing a knockdown on 3.5% of the distance strikes that he lands, while for Anthony Smith, it's 1.16. So I like the southpaw here. I like the younger guy. I like the more powerful guy. Both of these guys fought decent levels of competition, but obviously Smith has fought the higher level of competition at the UFC level. But the wins, Brady, the wins are about the same. So while Smitty's going out there and losing to the best guys, Johnny Walker, Ankalaev, John Jones, right? He's beating Jimmy Crute and Ryan Spann twice, and the wins for Rountree are just as good. Jacoby, Dawkins, Bukowskis, Roberson, those are just as good as some of the wins that Smitty's had recently. So I'm leaning Rountree here, but if Smith can get a takedown or two, or if he can actually, kind of go 50-50 at distance with Rountree, he could be live to win this fight.
Yep, I'm leaning Rountree as well. Rountree preferably by knockout, preferably in the first round. The over/under set at 1.5. The under 1.5 opened at -115. It's currently -153. The over 1.5 +123. Yeah, I think it's a violent fight here. Not sure if I want to lay -153 to the under, but I think that hits. Any thoughts on the total yourself? But I think you're muted.
Yeah, I was blowing my nose, dude. So 4 of 13 Smith fights have finished under 1.5 rounds that were scheduled for 3. And for Khalil, it's 8 of 14. So when you add those up, you get 12 of 27, or 44.44% of their fights have finished under 1.5 rounds. At -153, we're paying 60.5% on the line. So actually the violence, the -153, is a negative trifecta bet. It's overpriced, while the over 1.5 at plus money at +123 is almost a trifecta bet. So the value looks to be on the over, but that depends on how long you like to have your butt cheeks clenched while you're watching fights, and for a lot of people, including me and Brady, we don't like having our cheeks clenched.
Yeah, I don't like clenching them for sure. So yeah, nothing really sticking out. I might look at some like Khalil Rountree knockout prop. I feel like he should knock out Anthony Smith here. So I might look at like a knockout prop, but I doubt it's going to be something playable, to be honest, since Roundtree's -225 here, it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's probably what, +100 by knockout. I mean,
for lucky, yeah.
Yep. And then watch him like land a big shot and then get a rear naked choke, or watch Smith tap to strikes or some shit.
I could see that.
Come on.
I could see that. Yeah, maybe a tap to strikes could be in play.
Man, yeah. So it's a great fight, though. This is going to be a really fun one. This one saved the card, Brady, because like if this fight didn't get made, you know, our co-main event would have been Muniz Park, and then like Haqparast Mullarkey's, you know, a main card fight. Taylor Hernandez, which is a one-sided fight, probably is a main card fight. So big ups to getting Smith and Rountree on the card. That helps out.
Yep, I'd say it's probably one of the best fights on the card.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Not much competition, though, but yeah, definitely one of the best fights on the card. That's for sure. All right. We'll get into the main event now. Before we do, if you guys have not already, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for being here. We have Song Yadong going against Chris Gutierrez. We got Song Yadong, 25 years old, 5'8" with a 67-inch reach. We got Chris Gutierrez. He is 32 years old, 5'9" with a 67-inch reach. We got Song Yadong 7 years younger. It's going to be Chris Gutierrez with a 1-inch height advantage. Song Yadong, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Casey Kenny. Knockout win against Julio Arce. A knockout win against Marlon Moraes. A knockout loss to Corey Sandhagen. Then a knockout win against Ricky Simone. As far as Chris Gutierrez, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Felipe Calorish. A knockout win against Danat Bakary. A knockout win against Frankie Edgar. Decision loss to Pedro Muniz. And then a decision win against Alatang Haley. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this main event?
Sorry, I'm not a professional today, man. Everything's all messed up. In my
Same. I've had my hood up all stream.
Yeah. I'm getting sick, and I'm probably even getting you sick through the damn computer. I'm so sick. So, this is a great fight. This is a great striker versus striker fight. Not going to see a lot of takedowns in this one. You know, I think that you're going to see these guys kind of go tit for tat here. But what's going to be interesting to see is how Song Yadong deals with the kicking attack of Chris Gutierrez, because we know what Chris is good at. You know, he's good at interrupting your movement and kind of taking you apart from the bottom, from the ground up, you know. And when you look at the striking number, well, let's look at everything here, right? Chris Gutierrez, an inch taller. It's orthodox versus orthodox. On paper, Song Yadong 6.5 years younger. Word is that Song Yadong lies about his age, you know, much like Azamat Murzakanov, who, you know, was probably buying beer at the age of 8. You know, this is another guy who supposedly took his pro debut at the age of 15, you know. So there are some people who say that Song Yadong is already over 30 years old. But either way, Gutierrez a little bit taller. These guys very similar on experience numbers. Yadong 2 more fights. Gutierrez 15 more minutes in the cage. They started their pro careers around the same time. They have a similar level of UFC experience. So the UFC and pro experience very much similar. The size very much similar. Yadong on paper is listed as younger. Yadong the better finisher at the UFC level. 38% finish rate for Gutierrez, but a 67% finish rate for Song Yadong. At range, look at the accuracy. 39.76% for Song, 57.4% accuracy for Chris. And you know why that happens? It's because of his kicking attack. A lot more accurate with kicks than you are with punches, because you're going to the legs and the body a lot more. So Gutierrez throws a little bit less volume, but he's way more accurate and he's way more defensively responsible. And if you look at that distance striking differential, positive 3.09 per minute for Gutierrez, while it's positive 0.81 for Song. The difference, Brady, is the power, right? The power for Song Yadong, 1.26% of his distance strikes that he lands results in a knockdown, while it's about 0.8% for Chris Gutierrez. So both of these guys spend about the same amount of time at distance striking range. Neither of these guys even attempts 1 takedown per fight. It's 0.96 for Song Yadong, and it's 0.9 for Chris Gutierrez. So I think we can count on these guys to stand in front of each other and kickbox. The question is how is Song Yadong going to deal with those legs of Chris Gutierrez? Because he's very fundamentally sound. He's very technical. He may not be as powerful as Song, but if he starts landing leg kicks early, it's going to be really hard for Song Yadong to put weight on that front leg. And if you can't put weight on that front leg, that jab isn't as crispy, and those overhand rights aren't as heavy. So even though Song Yadong's a big favorite here, and I get it, 6.5 years younger on paper, the better strength to schedule, the more powerful fighter. And I think he's just been a lot hotter lately as well. I mean, you can make an argument that he was winning the Sandhagen fight. He had a gigantic cut over his eye, and then the fight got stopped. But if you watch that fight, man, they were going back and forth. So Song's hot. Song's a really good fighter, only getting better. And like I said, on paper, still only 26 years old. So sky is theoretically the limit here, but I think Chris Gutierrez is going to be a very good test for him, because Chris brings just as technical and just as dangerous of a distance striking attack on paper as Song Yadong. It's just Song's done it against the better level of competition.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that this fight's even happening. I was kind of hoping Song Yadong would fight somebody up a little bit more in the rankings, but because he just beat Ricky Simon, which was a great win, fought Corey Sandhagen, and like you said, a close fight up until the cut stoppage. But yeah, Song Yadong, pretty big favorite here, minus 350 currently, opened at minus 255, so some money's coming in on him. Chris Gutierrez plus 275. The over-under's at 3.5. I don't know what to do with this total, man, because I think both guys are like next level tough, but both guys have power. Song has power on the feet. Gutierrez has those powerful leg kicks. So I don't know. I'm not touching. Any thoughts on the total?
Let me look at my prop template and see if anything sticks out here. We've only got 2 5-round fights for these guys. For Song Yadong and Chris Gutierrez at the UFC level, 43% of their 21 3-round fights have finished inside the distance. And like you said, both these guys are pretty durable. So what is the over?
185. It was minus 150. Now 185.
No. Yeah, I'm not laying. Yeah, I'm going to sit and watch a fight for 17.5 minutes and pay minus 185 for the privilege of it going over. No, thank you. Not with these guys' power. No chance. I'd much rather bet that under 3.5 at plus 155. Just on paper,
Yeah. Yeah, no strong take for me on the total. I think I'm actually picking a decision, but yeah, don't really like Song at minus 350. Don't really like a lot on this card, to be honest, but I'm sure some spots will start sticking out whenever a book not named BetOnline starts releasing props.
Yeah, because I think that BetOnline, there are a lot of obvious play. Like you're going to be like, oh, I like Nascimento by submission. Give me plus 200. It's going to be like minus 200.
Yeah,
I mean, these guys know what they know what's going to happen here. So yeah, it's going to be probably hard. We're going to have to probably, veer into traffic a little bit here to find some, we're going to have to go into those plus money numbers, take a little bit of danger on, and hope that some of these fighters that maybe haven't looked good in the last fight or two turn it around. Maybe Muniz falls back in love with his grappling and makes it look easy against Pac. Maybe we find out that Luana Santos isn't as good as everyone thinks she is, and Egger gets her out of there, and we cash a plus money ticket there. So we'll see how it goes.
Yep. There'll be some spots sticking out for sure. All right. Much for saying. Thanks, Brady. Go have your baby. I'm trying. I mean, hopefully tomorrow the baby comes, but yeah, hopefully tomorrow. All right, Weezy, gonna get us out of here. Kind of a quicker show than usual. A short card. We're both not feeling well. We got a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, let the people know where they can find you and your plans for this week for some content.
Yeah, man, if I live to see tomorrow, we're going to be trying to do just the tip on Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time. Wednesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time, Ask Weezy. Do the DFS show right here on Pub Sports Radio, 8 o'clock Central Time. Yeah, this is one of those cards, but, we got to do the research same as we do on all the others. And if we put in that research, we put in that work, there are going to be some spots that are going to present themselves, and hopefully we'll hit more of them than we lose and make some money on this card. And the more money we make, the more we enjoy it. So, yeah, look for me 10 o'clock Central Time on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy, for just a tip. Do a full card breakdown here after I finish up taping all these fights. And, yeah, let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 83.
Yep, let's do it. So my plan is to tape this Carlos Vera fight tonight and then get my prediction video done tonight and then post it tomorrow. So if everything goes to plan, my prediction video will be out nice and early for this week for this card. And then, of course, we got the DFS show Wednesday, which I should be able to attend. If anything changes, I'll let you know, Weezy. And then just a regular content schedule for the rest of the week there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and good luck for UFC. Who?